Hi, I'm Rebecca Lyons. Welcome to Jesus Speaks in the Book of Mormon and in Dreams. So today we are reading from Alma chapter 19. So we need to backtrack and go back to yesterday a little bit. So yesterday we read Alma 18, and King Lamoni thinks that Ammon is God or the Great Spirit. And then Ammon teaches the king about the creation, about Adam and Eve and all the creation. And then about Adam and Eve, and then about God's dealings with men and the redemption that comes only through Jesus Christ. And so then after Ammon teaches all of this to King Lamoni, guess what happens to King Lamoni? So King Lamoni, he cries out to God after Ammon teaches him all this, because he's kind of feeling guilty for killing all these servants of his and feeling guilty for just different things he did because he didn't even really know there was a God and that he had commandments to keep. Then King Lamoni cries out to God. He began to cry out to the Lord, saying in verse 41, O Lord, have mercy, according to thy abundant mercies, which thou hast had upon the people of Nephi, have upon me and my people. And now when King Lamoni had said this, he fell down to the earth as if he were dead. So he passed out, kind of like what happened with Alma and so many others. So what happens is they get this, they feel the Spirit super strong, and then they have this really, really intense, powerful spiritual download, and their body just can't take that much of an intense, powerful spiritual download, and so then they pass out. That's actually just happened to a friend of mine recently, that the same thing happened to her, and she passed out. I was like, oh my goodness, it's just like in the Book of Mormon. So this is real. This really happens to people. I saw it in front of my eyes. And so everyone's thinking that the king is dead, but the queen knows that the king's not dead. So now that, and then I didn't read you 43. So 42. And now when King Lamoni had said this, he fell down to the earth as if he were dead. And it came to pass that his servants took him and carried him unto his wife, the queen, and laid him upon a bed. And he lay down as if he were dead for the space of 2 days and 2 nights. And his wife, the queen, and his sons and his daughters mourned over him after the manner of the Lamanites, greatly lamenting his loss. But the wife, the queen, knows that he's not dead. Okay, so now we're going to read chapter 19. King Lamoni receives the light of everlasting life and sees his Redeemer. His household falls into a trance, and some see angels. Ammon is preserved miraculously. He baptizes many and establishes a church among them. And it came to pass, after the 2 days and 2 nights, they were about to take King Lamoni's body and lay it in a sepulchre, so lay it in a tomb, which they had made for the purpose of burying their dead. Now the queen, having heard of the fame of Ammon, therefore she sent and desired that Ammon should come in unto her. So she wanted to talk to Ammon. And it came to pass that Ammon did as he was commanded, and went unto the queen, and desired to know what she would that he should do. So Ammon came into her and asked the queen what he wanted Ammon to do. Therefore, if this is the case, I would that ye should go in and see my husband, for he has been laid upon his bed for the space of 2 days and for 2 nights. And some say that he is not dead, but others say that he is dead, and that he stinketh, and that he ought to be placed in a sepulchre. But as for me myself, he does not stink. So some people are saying he stinks, he's dead, and other people are saying he doesn't stink, he's not dead. I mean, she's saying, I don't think he stinks, and I don't think he's dead, is what she's telling Ammon. Now this was what Ammon desired, for he knew that the king Lamoni was under the power of God, for he knew that that dark veil of unbelief was being cast away from his mind, and that the light which did light up his mind, which was the light of the glory of God, which was a marvelous light of his goodness, yea, the light had infused such joy into his soul, that the cloud of darkness having been dispelled, that the light of everlasting life was lit up in his soul. And he knew that this had overcome his natural frame, and he was carried away in God. Therefore, what the queen desired of him was only his only desire. Therefore, he went in to see the king according to as the king had desired. So Ammon went to go see the king and to check on him, so to tell her what he thought. So Ammon went in to see the king according as the queen had desired of him, and he saw that the king, and he knew that the king was not dead. And Ammon said unto the queen, He is not dead, but he sleepeth in God. And on the morrow, so tomorrow, he shall rise up again, and therefore do not bury him. And Ammon said unto her, Do you believe this? And she said unto him, I have had no witness save thy word and the word of our servants. Nevertheless, I believe that it shall be according as thou hast said. So she's saying, I believe everything that you just said. I believe that my husband is not dead and that he's just asleep in God. And then Ammon said unto the queen, Blessed art thou because of thy exceedingly great faith. I say unto thee, woman, there has not been such great faith among all the people of the Nephites. And it came to pass that she watched over the bed of her husband from that time even until that time on the morrow, which Ammon had appointed that her husband should rise up again. And it came to pass that the king arose according to the words of Ammon. So then he arose, just like when Ammon said he would arise, he arose and woke up. And as the king arose, he stretched forth his hand unto the woman, and the king said, Blessed be the name of God, and blessed art thou. So he's saying, Blessed be the name of God, and blessed art thou, queen, my queen. And then this is what the king said after that, after he woke up. For as sure as thou livest, behold, I have seen my Redeemer. And he shall come forth, and he shall be born of a woman, and he shall redeem all mankind who believe on his name. Now when the king had said these words, his heart was swollen within him, and he sunk again with joy, and the queen also sunk down, being overpowered by the Spirit. Now Ammon, seeing the Spirit of the Lord poured out according to his prayers upon the Lamanites, his brethren, who had been the cause of so much mourning among the Nephites or among the people of God, because of their iniquities and their traditions, he fell upon his knees, and he began to pour out his soul in prayer and thanksgiving to God for what he had done for his brethren, and he was also overpowered with joy, and thus they all three had sunk to the earth. Now when the servants of the king had seen that they had fallen, they all began to cry unto God, for fear of the Lord had come upon them also. For it was they who had stood before the king and testified unto him concerning the great power of Ammon. And it came to pass that they did call on the name of the Lord in their might, even until they all had fallen down to the earth, save it were one of the Lamanite women, whose name was Abish. For she, having been converted unto the Lord for many years, on account of a remarkable vision of her father. So all the king's people, they called upon the name of the Lord, and then all of them all had a spiritual download, and they all fell down to the earth just like the king did. So now everyone is passed out except for Abish. Her father had seen a vision of the Lord. And talking about Abish in 17, thus having been converted to the Lord and have never made it known. Therefore, when Abish saw that all the servants of Lamoni had fallen down to the earth, and also her mistress, the queen and the king, and Ammon lay prostrate upon the earth. So this time the king and the queen also passed out again after the king had just woken up from passing out for 2 days. And then Ammon also passed out. So she was the only one that was awake. And so Abish knew that it was the power of God, and supposing that this opportunity, by making known unto the people what had happened among them, that by beholding the scene it would cause them to believe in the power of God. Therefore Abish ran from house to house to house, making it known unto the people. So she ran around the whole entire neighborhood from house to house, knocking on every door and saying, My king and my queen and Ammon and all the people have all passed out. Everyone come to the house and see. And they began to assemble themselves together unto the house of the king. And there came a multitude of people. It was kind of like when Alma, the younger, had passed out. His dad called all the people to watch him when he woke up. And there came a multitude, and to their astonishment they beheld the king and the queen and the servants all prostrate upon the earth. They were all laying there as though they were dead. And they also saw Ammon, and behold, he was a Nephite. And now the people began to murmur among themselves, some saying that it was a great evil that had come upon them, or upon the king and his house, because he had suffered that the Nephites should remain in the land. So some people are saying, the people that are coming to watch the king, oh no, there's been a great evil that's come upon the king, and that's what had caused this. Instead of course, it was God and God's Spirit that had caused this, not evil. In verse 21, and they were all rebuked by those men who had stood at the waters of Sebus and scattered the flocks which belonged to the king, for their anger with Ammon, because of the number which he had slain of their brethren at the waters of Sebus, while defending the flocks of the king. Now one of them, whose brother had been slain with the sword of Ammon, being exceedingly angry with Ammon, drew his sword, and went forth that he might let it fall upon Ammon to slay him. As he lifted the sword to smite Ammon, he fell dead. So one of the brothers of one of the people that had been killed by the sword of Ammon went to kill Ammon to get him back for killing his brother, and then he fell down dead before he could kill Ammon. And in verse 23 it says, now we see that Ammon could not be slain, so Ammon could not be killed, for the Lord had said unto Mosiah his father, I will spare Ammon, and it shall be unto him according to thy faith. Therefore Mosiah trusted him unto the Lord. So the Lord was protecting Ammon. He promised Ammon's father that he would be protected. And so we're going to stop right here, and we're going to finish the other half tomorrow. So it will finish the exciting conclusion tomorrow. See you then.